Chris. Is it Chris Cavazos?
Cavazos, perfect.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Awesome, man. Yeah. So I think I was trying to remember when I like first met you. I think honestly, I think I met you last year. At Fire Lake. It
Hmm.
was probably like a 2 minute conversation. It was later in the week.
Yep.
It was kind of one of those bypassing, and then we went our ways. But I actually got to meet you a little more this past year
Hmm.
at Fire Lake. Yeah, man. For people who are listening, I did a little digging. I think your first job in IT was in 2007. Is that correct?
Um, that was probably my first like listed job.
Mm-hmm.
Like when the those websites like LinkedIn, the professional social media websites became popular. That's when I started. But actually, my IT career kind of got kicked off in the '90s. I'm
Ooh, okay.
I'm an old guy. Yeah.
You have a lot of wisdom.
uh, that's what they say, but sometimes I don't prove that correct. So
So in the '90s, man, that's kind of you were one of the pioneers then for like systems management or IT even. You
well,
know.
yeah, it wasn't really. It was considered IT, but it really had nothing to do with systems management. What is it? My junior year of high school, um, my uncle, who was actually the guy who really influenced me to get into this career path for me. I really owe him almost everything. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here. So, shout out to my uncle David. Um, anyway, he got me a part-time job over the summer where he was working at as a computer operator. I don't know if you know what a computer operator is or what they do, but essentially what I did is I sat down in this basement with this huge terminal with just a bunch of tapes, backup tapes. And my job was to kick off backup jobs on a terminal device, not even a computer. It was a terminal device. Kick off backup jobs and then change the tapes out. And they would take the tapes that I pull out, put them in this nice little box. The disaster recovery company. It wasn't like Iron Mountain, but it wasn't Iron Mountain. They would come, take the tapes, put them in a secure place, and bring me other tapes to put back into the machine so it can run backups and jobs. That was my first IT job. Technically, it was technically a technical job, but I didn't have my hand on a real like PC or anything. All I did was work on a terminal, and if they needed to communicate with me, there was a AS400 mail program called CC Mail, and they would just send me CC Mail, and that was it. So that was technically my first IT job, although it was only for like I was probably like 10 weeks. I mean, it was really the reason why I was there because their normal computer operator was out for an extended period of time, and so he brought me in to do that job, and it was easy. I mean, and the only problem was is that you're technically in the server room, so it was cold. So even in the
Yes.
middle of Texas summer, I had to go. I took a jacket, and everyone was, I would leave my house or I would talk to my friends, and they're like, "Oh, you're crazy! It's 102 degrees outside. Why are you taking a jacket?" We're like, "Well, where I work, it's like 50, so I'll freeze, and there's no windows, and really, you're just down there by yourself." And they didn't really like you to leave, like if you're in the middle of a job. So I had to stay there and make sure the job's finished successfully and whatnot. So yeah, it was a pretty lonely job, but that got my foot in the door.
So then after that, how does your IT career progress after that 10-week cycle?
Well, I didn't actually get another IT job till 1997, and I started working for at the time it was called Time Warner Communications, and I worked on their help desk for the Roadrunner cable modem service. Now, some people would say that's not a real IT job, but when I had to try to walk people how to set up IP addresses and whatnot, and they would purchase like back then, PCs didn't have network cards already installed, so they would go to like Best Buy or one of the 100 computer shops that were real popular at the time, buy a network card, and then call us to help them install it. So it was technical, even though I wasn't working for, for like, end users. I was working with customers of Time Warner. It was still technical. So that was really my first, um, or not my first, but my second IT job. And since then I've been in IT ever since, ever since then. Actually, I transitioned from doing that help desk role, and I actually started doing internal IT for the Time Warner Communications office, because they saw I had all these skills and stuff. Again, I learned from like my uncle. My mother was also in IT at the time, so she had a lot of knowledge, and I always had a computer around, even when I was a little kid, because of that. So I had a lot of like tribal knowledge of, I knew like DOS commands and stuff like that. I knew how to install hardware. So I had all that tribal knowledge, and that really helped me in that help desk job, as well as when I transitioned into internal IT. And then, like I said, I've been doing that ever since.
Was there a person who like, you know, kind of strung you along into that opportunity? That was at Time Warner. I was like, we really want Chris to be on board. Was there somebody who like kind of prepped you into that role?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I was doing that help desk role, and the director of the internal IT for Time Warner, he kind of got a got wind of it when I helped him. They back then they didn't really know DHCP, so everything was static IP, and they implemented a new scope because we got like 10 new devices. We're having 10 new people start, but their help desk guy was out and he was busy, so he couldn't come down to figure out, or not come down to figure out, but he couldn't come down to actually put the IPs in Windows on those devices. Well, I was able to figure out the scope just by doing some routing on my own computer, and I just went in there and I just put the IPs on those computers. And so the guy, the help, not the help desk, but the desktop guy comes down and he's like, "There's IPs here, and these machines are connected. What's going on?" And I told him that I did it, and so that got in the ear of the director. And then he was real, he's like, "Hey, we want to get you on here, but there politics and all this other stuff." But probably after like 2 months, I was able to transition over. So he really championed me in that aspect. But no, going back to what I said before, it was always either my uncle or my mother. More my uncle. My mom, she did IT. She was a desktop administrator. She did IT, but that wasn't really what her passion was. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
with my uncle, that was technology was his passion. He was a sysadmin. He's been a sysadmin, as long as I can remember. So he was actually the one that introduced me to hardware. From a uh, back then it was called IBM. From an IBM perspective, and then taught me about Windows and IP address DNS, really a lot about DNS. So he actually taught me a lot. And he was the one who kind of like kept encouraging me, back when, and not that they're not important now, but
Mm-hmm.
back in the late 90s, early 2000s, certifications were real important. Really, you could get your door in anywhere if you had an MCP, MCSE, A plus, all that stuff. He really helped me and encouraged me to just get those certifications, so that way it would help me move forward in my career, and it did. So again, I'm real grateful for him for helping me, because like I said, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here. But yeah, that's really those two, my mother and my uncle, are the ones that really have kept me going. And now, I'm looked at as someone who inspires others, so I try to do the same. In my company, Quisitive, I'm a principal consultant, which is the highest level of consultant that you have, and they look to me to mentor some of the consultants, junior consultants that come in, and just not just teach them how we do things here at Quisitive, but hey, here's some tribal knowledge I've picked up with Azure Virtual Desktop, Intune, Configuration Manager, uh, uh, Defender for Endpoint, Windows 365, all of the technologies that are in my wheelhouse. I'm looked up to in that company, so I always get all the questions, and I try to be there as much as I can for our other consultants who are trying to broaden their skills and get to where I'm at. So yeah, I'm trying to help them just like I was helped when I was coming up.
Yeah, and that's so important, right? Like to have somebody champion you, like yours was, your mom and your uncle,
Hmm.
and now like, I'm sure the people who you are mentoring inside Acquisitive, you know, probably don't realize it now, but like, later on, they'll be like, man, Chris really had a great impact in my career. So like, just like having this invisible string on people, like leading them in the right path.
Right.
So
And that's what I want to do, and hopefully, in the I've been in this position for about a year and a half, 2 years. Hopefully, in that time, I've been able to help other consultants learn stuff, help them feel better about their skills, and keep them moving forward so they can get where they want to in their career.
mm, absolutely. And you mentioned you're a consultant, and I did see that you had some in-house experience. What has been the kind of biggest differences between the two that you've noticed in your career?
So the biggest difference is, well, and I don't want to say this in general because I'm sure it's not the same for everybody. But when I was just a sysadmin before I moved into consulting, it was just you were siloed into whatever expertise you had. So when I was a sysadmin, everything for me was Active Directory, Windows, and configuration manager, and that was it. I wasn't really, I wasn't expected to go and, hey, I want to learn SQL or on-prem Exchange at the time, and it was just, you focus on that. That's your job. That's what we want you to do. So, sometimes it can get kind of stagnant. I mean, you're doing the same thing every day. And yeah, configuration manager evolves, the directory evolves, Windows evolves, but it's still, in essence, it's at its core level, it's all the same. I mean, like a lot of the services and directories and config man are still labeled SMS. I mean, it's all still the same. Um, as a consultant, it's not. You may be working in the same technologies. Like when I started, I was strictly a configuration manager consultant, but every environment is different. The organization may do things differently. They may have something configured completely differently. It's always different. So you had to really stay on your toes so that when you walked into a situation, can you not really know what to expect because you don't know until you get there, but just so that you have that again, it's kind of like tribal knowledge to realize that everyone can do stuff differently. And then it turns out that, yeah, that organization does stuff completely differently than from what you learned or from what the last organization that you set foot in did. And you don't really, but the thing is, if you stay up to date, you keep your skills sharp, you don't have to start from scratch. You still have that level of knowledge that can help you resolve whatever issue that particular client may have around, config man or any other technology. And then another difference is, like I mentioned, when you're a sys, or at least like my experience was as a sysadmin, you are siloed into the technologies that they expect you to support. Well, as a consultant, that can get you a good ways, but if you want to move forward, you have to learn new things. That's I think that's the biggest difference. And that's why I actually enjoy consulting a lot more than just being a sysadmin, is because I've been allowed to grow when I started Quisitive. I started at a company called Catapult Systems. They were acquired by Quisitive and now we're Quisitive. But when I started with Catapult, they were real big on helping me grow because again, when I started, I was hired on as a configuration manager consultant, and that was really it. And then they're like, "Hey, do you know anything about Intune?" And I'm like, "Well, I know about it. I've done some stuff in a lab. Yeah, I can learn." And so they gave me the resources that I needed to learn. Intune is in my wheelhouse and I'm one of the experts. So, I do that. And the same goes with the other technologies in my wheelhouse: Azure Virtual Desktop, Windows 365, a Defender suite of products, Defender for Endpoint, Defender for Identity, all those things. And then, of course, just Azure infrastructure. I would never have thought any of that would ever be in my wheelhouse. I always thought I would be a configuration manager or an endpoint management guy, whether it be configuration manager or Intune. Now those engagements probably are just like 10% of my workload. It's everything else takes up the rest of the other 90% of my workload. So especially AVD. So yeah, it's just they've allowed me to grow, and it keeps things fresh. And I think if that you have that experience, you know, you're knowing that it's just not the same thing over and over again. It makes it a little bit easier to wake up in the morning and go to work because you know it's not going to be the same thing every day.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you know, you got into consulting. Like, how did you fall into that umbrella? Like, you know, did somebody tell you about it? Like, how did you stumble upon that kind of trajectory?
Well, it was I had two opportunities, and I'm not afraid to say it. I chickened out on the opportunity. Um, Catapult, same company, Catapult Systems, came to me and said, "Hey, would you consider being a?" At that time, it was SCCM 2007 consultant. This is how long ago it was, and I was like, "Cool," but you know, at the time, I was intimidated by doing consulting work because of everything I just explained.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, it was mundane doing what I was doing at the time, but for me, it was safe, right? And I knew, talking to other consultants that it can be challenging and you have to really stay on your toes. So I accepted an offer, and then my current company actually came back with another one. So I that kind of gave me the green light to say, yeah, I'm going to hold off on going into consulting. Well, fast forward what 5 years after that, no, 4 years after that, because I think it was in 2012. Uh, fast forward to no 2013. So fast forward to 2017. I'm at this place and I get laid off, right? And I get a contract job, which is fine, but I'm like, hey, this contract is only for X number of months, and we're coming down to that. And I was just concerned. And I saw Catapult was looking for a configuration manager consultant. And I was like, I'm going to apply, but there is no way they're going to consider me because, I turned them down last time. No, I submitted my resume online, and an hour later, I got a call.
Wow.
And then I went through the motions, and I ended up getting hired on there the summer of 2017. And
So
I've been there ever since. And like I said, now since Catapult was acquired by Quisitive, now we're Quisitive.
okay, okay. And it, I know you mentioned ABD, right? I really don't have much experience with it. Like, what are some scenarios or ways that you see it being used? Just for my own curiosity, you know?
So really, where it's being used is providing a way for users that either want to work remote or need to work remote, allow them to work from within their network, in their corporate network, in their own infrastructure without having to give them a device. That's really it. And where it took off for me was during the pandemic. That's where I really, really, really I cut my teeth on Azure Virtual Desktop. And that was just the opportunity I had to work with Windows Virtual Desktop at the time. It was just dumb luck. It was just dumb luck. Um, Going back to Catapult, Microsoft being a Microsoft partner, they had an airlift. They had two airlifts to learn this new thing called Windows Virtual Desktop, and my company considered some other consultants, but they declined. And they came to me and said, "Hey, Chris, would you be interested in learning this? It's some type of VDI thing." That Microsoft's trying to do VDI, and they're giving us two slots. They're paying for it. Would you go? Yeah, I'll go. And I went, and I learned. And then there was a second one that I went to, and at that point, Catapult was like, "Yeah, no, we're sending you, no questions asked." And then the pandemic hit, and everybody was trying to find a way for their employees to work from home. They had Azure, we were able to do Azure Virtual Desktop. So I told this story several times while I was out there at Fire Lake at MMS. It's like when the pandemic hit at a mark between like April of 2020 till about August of 2020, I was putting in 120-hour weeks just building AVD infrastructure for companies across around the world. I had clients in India, in Europe, obviously a lot here, a lot of universities, higher education organizations, a lot of healthcare organizations, uh, uh, banking. They all needed something so that their users could still work, but do it from home, and they wouldn't have to ship them a device, because that was the big thing, is that a lot of these organizations considered just shipping them a laptop, but there was none available. Everything
Yes,
was all going.
literally,
Yeah.
literally.
So that's where I really cut my teeth on Azure Virtual Desktop, and that's kind of what put me in the position of being like the Azure Virtual Desktop guy.
Wow,
Yeah,
wow.
it was all kind of, yeah, the pandemic was a horrible thing, but that's really propelled me to where I'm at right now. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have had all that experience with it, I'd still have it in my wheelhouse, but I wouldn't be the expert that I am in it now if it wasn't for that situation.
Man, and the hours you put in and the scenarios you had ran through, I'm sure you saw everything and everything during that time
Yes,
frame.
yes. They were. I was like, "Hey, do you want a POC? No. If it works, let's just do it." Because they were desperate. They needed to get a way for their end users to still work, but not ship them a device. And the other thing is that they didn't have to set up any VPN. It's just, if they had internet access, they're free to use it, right? And they also looked into like VDI solutions like Horizons or Citrix, but at the time their cloud offerings were kind of and they couldn't get the hardware, and with that it was way more expensive. So yeah, that really pushed a lot of companies to use AVD, because all you had to have was a tenant. That's it.
Wow, wow. You called it luck, but I think, I don't know if you heard this quote. It's one of my favorite quotes. It's, when preparedness meets opportunity. It's like you prepared yourself, for that opportunity arose and you were ready for it.
Yeah.
So
Well,
wow.
it's like whether it was like a ready or not type of thing. I had to do it, and luckily, the all those, the 120 hours a week for like 3 months, all of those implementations were successful. They were able to, get business going again, and so I was really, even though it was a real chore, because also in the middle of that, my family and I were kind of in between houses. We were having a house being built, and it wasn't ready at the time, so we were kind of like vagabonds moving from like temporary home to a temporary home, and that made it even more challenging. But yeah, we got through it, and yeah, I'm grateful for my wife and my children for helping us out during that time, because I know I wasn't available because I was in front of a screen most of the time.
Oh my goodness. I guess at the time you probably couldn't travel to any places to implement them.
No, and really, I didn't have to.
Yeah.
That was
Yep.
the thing, is because it's Azure. As long as I had the appropriate roles, I could deploy it. Maybe I would need some help from their administrators if it's like a hybrid join situation, making sure they have the connectivity from Azure back to their data centers. But if it was just straight, at the time, straight Azure AD, I could build it for them and configure it for them. So yeah, but yeah, it was a lot of time in front of a screen.
Man. Oh my goodness. Um, I did see that you had a stint at Whole Foods.
I did. That was the contract job I was telling you about.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
I was wondering, like, did you get any of the perks while you're there? Did
I
you get
did.
any? Did you?
I did.
Wow.
I got discounts and whatnot off their groceries. Actually, Whole Foods is headquartered in Austin, Texas, right? And I'm born and raised in Austin. So it was kind of like, hey, I've been around this my whole life, because the actual store is as old as I am. It started in 70. Actually, it's a year older than I. It started in 75. So it's been around. I've always known of Whole Foods, so it was cool. But their corporate office is actually on top of their flagship store. When it was lunchtime, instead of like driving to other restaurants, they would just go right downstairs and eat something from the restaurants that they had there at Whole Foods. So, but yeah, we got. I got all the perks. They had a lot of like free stuff that you had opportunity to get, and then you got like, it was a minimal discount off of like their groceries and whatnot. but yeah, I was able to take advantage of that. Um, I was never a real big Whole Foods person to begin with, so it's not like I went in there and went on a shopping spree. But they do have some real good products, like their frozen waffles are like the best waffles in the world, fresh, frozen, or whatever. So I actually I haven't gotten them in a while, and I miss them. But I would always get me some waffles because they were so good. Uh,
Oh,
and their fresh food, like that they had like at their deli, they had a pizzeria, they had an Italian food shop, they had barbecue. All that food was good, and that's like I said, that's where everyone went at lunch. They would just go right downstairs into the grocery store and have lunch. So it was a cool experience. It was a cool experience.
super convenient right there,
Hmm.
And you mentioned barbecue. Do you think Texas has the best barbecue?
No doubt, no doubt. I know people from other parts of the South and like the Carolinas will probably argue with me, but I'm sorry. Barbecue is brisket, and brisket is barbecue. Everything else can be called barbecue, but it probably isn't.
Do you have any favorite spots around you?
Yeah, actually, there's a lot of good spots around me. My favorite, and I'm an old school guy. This is before barbecue was the best here, even before everyone knew about it. So I'm an old school guy. There is a small city right outside of Austin called Elgin, and they have a barbecue place called Southside Market, and I think that's my favorite barbecue. Um, right after that, right under there, there's another small city that's has been famous for its barbecue for forever called Lockhart, Texas, and right under Southside, there's Blacks. Their barbecue is amazing.
Oh,
Now,
man.
I know when you think of Austin, everyone thinks of Franklin's. They're really good. Don't get me wrong; they're really good. But I think the best native Austin barbecue place is a place called La Barbecue. I think they're just a step above Franklin's. Any of you guys come to Austin, Texas? Yeah, if you want to stand in line for Franklin's for 3 hours, be my guest. They're real good. It's worth it. But if you can, go to La Barbecue.
Love barbecue.
They're a step up, just a step above Franklin's.
Man, yeah, you guys do barbecue right. I was just there a couple months, maybe a year ago actually at this point. I went to Dallas, Fort Worth area.
Mm-hmm.
Man, my fiance and I left there. We were like, oh, the barbecue here is just top notch.
Yeah,
Like we've done the Carolinas, we've done like St. Louis. They do it okay, right? But uh, in my opinion, Texas does it exactly, right.
you're my brother.
Yeah, because I think Carolina has they they do like the sweet barbecue, like a runny barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine, but it wasn't my jam.
Yeah, like I said, and like you talk about St. Louis, they do their ribs really well. Now, see down here, pork ribs are not. Yeah, they're considered barbecue, but they don't in like the wheelhouse of barbecue here. It's not really part of it. Here, it's you have brisket, sausage, turkey, chicken, and then you have beef ribs, and not the short ribs, the big honking dino ribs that you get. That's actually my favorite. I love them because it's some. I don't know if it's the bone because you get it on the bone. I don't know if the bone gives it some flavor, but and I love brisket. Don't get me wrong. I love brisket. I eat brisket all day, but beef rib, the full size beef rib. I mean, there's nothing like it. I love it.
Man, so I see you have a gold chain, and I was looking at your Twitter. I think you are probably one of the most stylist IT people. I think you probably have more Jordans than I can count. I saw you getting every drop. I was like, that's who's getting all the Jordans.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of my hobbies. I'm a sneakerhead. I love sneakers, especially Jordans. Jordan for me, Jordan. It goes back to my kid. Being a kid. The reason why first of all, I'm a huge Michael Jordan fan. I love Michael Jordan. I've always been a fan of his. Like I said, from when he started to even the crap he does now, I'm a fan of Michael. He owns like a F1 team and stuff like that. I'm a fan of his. for me, Jordans go back to when I was a kid. I always wanted to have a pair of Jordans, but at the time, my family really couldn't drop, $120 for sneakers. I remember the first pair I got, mowed lawns in the Texas heat to save up $120, and I bought my first pair of Jordans. And I always said to myself, when I get adult money, I'm going to have all the Jordans I want, and that's what happened.
Are do you have a favorite pair or like maybe a top threes?
So my top three are the top are the Jordan 4. And actually, you talk about a drop, they're having the white cement drop this weekend. And I want to get them really bad. Those actually, when I talk about, I mowed lawns, that shoe is what I got back in 1989. That's when it dropped. And that's the shoe I got. They only drop this like once every 7 or 8 years, and it's coming up on Saturday. So I'm really hoping I get them.
Ooh.
So yeah, Jordan 4. Right after that would be the not the Jordan 10, the Jordan 11. That's the one with the patent leather.
The Concords?
The Concords, yes.
Yep, yep.
Yes, that would be my number two, and then my number one. Even though they're not real comfortable at all, you got to go back to the OGs, the Jordan ones.
The ones are beautiful. They look good with everything.
They do,
You
they
know.
do. And so yeah, those are my top three, and I'm really hoping I get those white cement Jordan 4s this weekend. I really hope I do.
Do you know what time they drop?
They drop at nine. I know they drop 9 a.m. Central. So depending on where you're at, that's the time they're going to drop.
So you have to be up ready.
Yeah, got to be up ready. And it's kind of like, if you're trying to buy like really in demand concert tickets, you have like
Yep.
five private browsers going and everything, trying to see if one of them will hit.
Have your friends and family bring their laptops.
Yeah, and you know what? Shout out to my wife Jennifer. She's actually gotten several of them for me that I could not. I like I said, I would have five, uh, um, in private browsers. So I'd be in, look like I had five computers going, and I would get nothing. And she'd be at work on her phone, and she gets it.
Wow,
Yep.
that's awesome. That's a great partner. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Yep.
Oh man. Well, I'm gonna shift it again a little bit to obviously you spoke this year at MMS. When did you start your speaking career?
I started. I want to say in 2022. I really don't remember. I know I've presented at four of them already. I did obviously 2025 MOA, 2024 Flamingo Edition back in Fort Lauderdale, and then I didn't do MMS MOA last year because my son was graduating from college, so I didn't do that. But then the previous two MOAs I presented, 2023, 2022.
Do you remember like what that push was, or like was there somebody like on in your ear like, hey, you gotta go present?
So I attended as an attendee the Miami edition in 2021, I think, or yeah. And I forgot what session I was in, but someone else had asked a question, and the presenter would say, "Well, let me get back to you. I don't have and I knew the answer. It was a Intune something. I don't even remember. So I said, "Hey, if you don't mind, I can answer his question." I answered his question, and he had we went back and forth for about 5 minutes, and then he was satisfied, and we continued on with the presentation. Uh, um, uh, Greg was there in there, like how he'll pop in from
Mm-hmm.
at various sessions. Greg was there, and he's like, "Hey, you should present next time." I was like, "Oh, I could never do that." At the time, I would say I thought I had a fear of speaking in public because that was the first time. Like normally, I don't know what came over me, but normally there were other sessions that I knew the answer to that the presenter didn't have the answer to, and normally I would just sit there quiet. I don't know why I decided to say, "Hey, can I answer this guy?" But I did, and then I guess the rest is history.
Wow, wow.
Yeah,
So
I submitted for MOA 2022, and they picked me, and now I'm I hope I'm a mainstay because I hope they keep asking me to come back. So I hope I'm a mainstay.
Man. And so before you were just like an attendee, just
Yeah, I was a attendee. That was actually the first time I attended was in 2016. And
wow. So you had been going almost 10 years now.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's right after they started doing the non-Microsoft sponsored MMS. Now, those MMSs, I've been to like 4 of those when they used to have them back in Vegas, and Microsoft was running them, and then they stopped because they went to the whole Ignite convention model. Um, but yeah, I went to that one in 2016. It was MOA, and I was just an attendee. And then again, I went to the one in Miami, an attendee, but I actually said something, and then they're like, "Oh, you should present." And like,
That's awesome, man. I didn't know that. Usually you hear like people like, oh, I started a user group, but you started at MMS essentially.
yeah. And at the time, also, like I said, Greg kind of, put the bug in my ear, but uh, at the time it was Catapult before we were bought out by Quisitive. Um, there were two other consultants who spoke consistently at those things, and they encouraged me to do it too. So I was like, okay, well,
Nice.
I'll see if they accept my session, and yeah, they did. Or I think it was 2 sessions I submitted, and they accepted both of them. And yeah, rest is history.
Do you remember your first MMS, like speaking, who you did it with, where your presentations were on?
Yeah, they were AVD related, of
Mhm.
course. And it was with the guy that I presented with this last time, Travis Roberts. Um, I think every time I've done MOA, I've done sessions with Travis. I really like him. He's a good guy. He's good to present with, and he knows his stuff. So it makes what I have to do a lot easier, because now we kind of have an understanding. We kind of bounce off each other, like like the talk show host and the sidekick, like Johnny Carson and Ed McMahon. We kind of bounce stuff off each other. Yeah, that really dates me saying Johnny Carson. But anyway, yeah, we kind of have that rapport now, so it makes for a really good a session for the attendees.
That's awesome, man. So, and I bet it's really special, like going back, like, now probably yearly. It's like, hey, what's up, Travis? Let's do it again.
Yep,
And
exactly.
so, yeah, and like you mentioned, he's such a great guy. So,
Yeah, yeah, he's good. I really dig him, and he's helped me a lot too. So I appreciate him.
absolutely. And so, let's see. Another thing I wanted to ask, I see I think Star Wars themed background. Is that correct?
Yep, in my office. Yep,
And is that an arcade?
that's the one up Star Wars arcade game. Yep,
How did you get your hands on that?
my wife got it for me for Christmas
Nice, nice.
a couple Christmases ago. Yeah,
So you're a pretty big Star Wars fan?
yeah, man. I live and breathe it. I mean, and I have since I was a kid. So that's just this is just me continuing trying to keep as much as my youth as possible.
Absolutely. And I've seen some amazing Legos of Star Wars. I don't know if you've gotten your hands on any.
I have a couple. They're in a box, but I do have a couple of sets yet that I need to try to find space to display them.
Oh man. Let's see. You know, we know your technology background. But who is Chris? What do you like to do outside of your free time? Now that you're not working 120 hours,
Mhm.
what do you like to do? What do you enjoy?
Well, I mean, obviously Star Wars. I do a lot with Star Wars. I'm part of a fan group here in the Austin area that we meet
Nice.
and just talk Star Wars. Once a month, and occasionally we'll go see like other like fun types of movies together, like the Marvel movies or the DC movies, anything that has to do with like comics or sci-fi or fantasy or whatever. So I do that. I love to hang out with my family. I think I have a fun family, so it's cool to hang out with them. Um, Other than that, I love football, and in the fall on Saturday and Sunday, I don't want to say I disappear, but I have my television, and I have the split screen with 4 college football games going on Saturday morning, and then the NFL. I'll have like 2 of them going. So I love football. So I try to stay involved with football. For a while there, I coached my older son's Pop Warner team when he was playing. Now he's graduated in college and is doing his own thing now. And then for a while there, I actually would broadcast as the play-by-play announcer local high school games. Yeah, and I would still do it, but that company that I was doing it for got bought out by a bigger company, and they actually brought in like quote unquote real talent. That I talk to, or I don't talk to, but I see like some of the forums are like, we like the other guys because they were part of the community and they knew the schools, they knew the players, but then they would just bring in these people from like outside of the state just because they had a degree in journalism to do the play by play, and they're like, yeah, it's not the same because they just don't know the teams, the schools in the community, and we did, so it made for a more fun broadcast. But it is what it is. Yeah, I love to collect sneakers, Jordans.
How many how many do you have at this point now?
I have 37 pairs.
Wow. Wow. So I'm assuming you probably built a sneaker like closet for them.
They're take the top shelf of me and my wife's closet. That's where they live, along with her handbags. I should say she does some shopping too. Yeah, they're up there, but yeah. Um, Here lately, though, there hasn't been a lot of drops that I've been interested in. But like I said, the one coming this Saturday, I'm definitely interested in. I hope I get it.
I hope so too, man, because that seems like a special, right? That one's got some
That
memories
has
behind it.
some memories for it. Yeah, like I said, that was the first one that I bought. And like I hadn't had a chance to pick it up when they dropped it. Like they only do it like say once every 7 or 8 years, and we're coming up on one, so I hope I get it.
Man, I hope so too. What is some advice, whether it's IT or like life advice that you would give to like the next gen of professionals or IT workers?
I would just say don't be afraid to keep growing uh, in life and in IT. If you stop growing, you stop becoming relevant. And you don't ever want that in life. You want to just, keep evolving and keep learning, whether it's your skill in IT or just in life, just learning new things and allowing yourself to try, take new experiences, experience new things. That's really would be my advice in life and in IT, but especially in IT, because you never want to be irrelevant in IT because then it makes you expendable.
Yes,
So you just want to be willing to learn, willing to grow, and if you have that mentality, you'll do just fine in life and in IT.
absolutely. Speaking into that, is there like you being in like right, you were in the forefront of the AVD space, at a very important time. Is there anything like at the moment or that you're like, anything in technology that excites you or that you're looking forward to?
It's what is exciting everybody, and that's AI.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, I that's an area that I have minimal exposure to. I have minimal skills in, but like I mentioned, you got to keep growing. So I'm working when I can find the time. I'm working to learn more about it. Get my hands on it, build some stuff. Build my own modules and whatnot. So that's where everything's going. Although a lot of people think that it's going to replace this type of job or this. I don't see that. I see it as becoming a tool.
Yes.
I don't think it's going to replace anything. I mean, they say it has to a certain extent in some other areas, but and that could be. But in IT, I don't see it becoming an actual solver of problems. I see it as becoming a tool for professionals like us to make what we do a little bit easier. Um,
Yeah.
so that's what I see it becoming, but it's still something that's important. It's still something that can bring value to an organization from an IT perspective. So that's where I'm kind of focusing on. And of course, I'm trying to stay up to date because, technology changes, even in config man, it's still around. It's not dead. It's still bringing in stuff. But with Intune, Azure Virtual Desktop, Windows 365, we did a big Windows 365 presentation at MMS, myself and Chris John from Microsoft, along with Travis. We did a pretty big presentation on that. So it's growing by leaps and bounds. with security also being on the forefront, making sure environments are secure. The Defender products are still a big, they're talked about a lot. They're implemented all the time. So I'm staying up to date with that. But yeah, that's really what I'm doing just to keep growing.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I'm curious to see how the AI space will evolve and like how we can leverage it as IT professionals. And I'm glad that you brought it up because I'm always trying to like learn like how people are using it. So like maybe like, oh, I didn't know about that. So yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm excited to like lean into it versus be scared of it. So
Yeah, and yeah, this thing, yeah, like I said, don't be scared. I mean, don't let fear hold you back, because like I said, if you're letting fear hold you back, it's not allowing you to grow, and you need to grow to make sure that you're successful in this business. So
absolutely. And I remember now that I was going to ask you a little earlier was please don't tell me that your favorite team is the Cowboys.
my favorite team is the Cowboys.
Oh, I'm just giving you tough. I'm
That's
just
okay.
giving.
That's okay. And that's the thing is that normally I would like for other teams, like teams like that win all the time. I'm normally the sourpuss, and I'm against them. But it's the Cowboys, and I can't say that about the Cowboys because they really haven't been winning. But yeah, I'm a Cowboys fan. I wouldn't say I'm like a crazed Cowboys fan. Like I accept reality. I can accept, hey, we haven't been real good for a minute. But yeah, it's the Cowboys. But where I live and die though, when it comes to football, is college football.
Oh, okay.
So, and my team is, the Texas Longhorns, hook 'em, and I live and die with them, and I will defend that team till the day I die. So, some people can be crazed about the Cowboys. That's how I feel about the Texas Longhorns.
Yeah, I mean, they're both they're both solid and consistent teams, right? Like you cannot take it away from them.
Mhm.
They have built an amazing like name and brand for themselves, right? Mainly because they win.
Right,
So
exactly.
mhm. So man, no, I was giving you a tough time, Chris.
And you know what's funny is that when I go into organizations and I tell them I'm from Texas, I would say about 60% of the time, the next question is, "Are you a Cowboys fan?"
Hey,
Before we even talk about anything that has to do with the project or the engagement that I'm paid to be there for, I tell them I'm from Texas. They're like, "Are you a Cowboys fan?" That's like like I said, that's a lot of the next question. The next question that happens, it happens a lot of the time. So yeah, you're not the first one to ask.
oh man, but I think they're gonna have a good year next year. Obviously, I think what's the name got hurt this year. You guys, this Prescott got hurt earlier in the year.
I got hurt. Yeah, again.
Yeah. So, is he gonna be good? Is he gonna be back for the next season?
He's going to be back, and then they traded for the Pittsburgh Steelers' best wide receiver. I don't remember his name. So now, because before he just had one real threat in CeeDee Lamb.
Mhm.
Now with this receiver, like I said, he was Pittsburgh's number one receiver. Now he'll have two threats to throw to downfield, and I think that will alleviate a lot of the double teams that CeeDee Lamb got. And then they drafted actually this is it's good for me. They drafted the running back out of Texas, Jaden Blue, and that should help him in the running game because he's strong and he's really fast and he has real good hands. I think he had the most touchdown catches for a running back in college this past season. So he's going to help them a lot. So that is good. Defensively, I think they'll be fine as long as their defensive. I forgot his name. See, sometimes number 11 on the defensive guy from Penn State. If he can stay healthy,
Micah Parsons.
yeah, Parsons exactly.
Yep.
Micah
Yep.
Parsons. Yeah,
Mhm.
if he can stay healthy, they'll be okay. So I'm not going to sit here at like some Cowboys fans and say, oh, they're going to go to the Super Bowl. If they make the playoffs, I'm okay.
They'll make your weekends more enjoyable.
Exactly.
Man. Well, I'll wrap it up with that. I don't want to give you too much, too much crap. I'm a
Who's your
I'm
team? Who's
the
your team?
The Vikings.
The
They
Viking.
they they had a really great year, but what was their quarterback?
Darnold.
Darnold. He kind
He,
of folded. He folded at the end, and
well,
he
now you know what you got. JJ McCarthy, and he was hurt last year. Now we're going to see if he was if he was truly worth of a first round pick. So we'll see.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm excited. The Michigan guy. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, he didn't get his opportunity. He got one preseason game in.
And then, yeah, then he got hurt.
Yeah, fingers crossed. We'll see. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining, my man. I really appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time out of your day.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I wish you luck Saturday. I'm fingers crossed. Got my toes crossed.
All right. Thank
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris. And hopefully I'll see you soon. Somewhere, right?
Yes, somewhere in the netherverse of the IT community, the MMS community, whatever you want to call it, we'll run into each other out there, and if not, if that, hopefully we can run into each other at a other conference sometime later this year.